And welcome back to the next video, how to do long division. I imagine that this is going to be a polarizing video for those of you viewing. Either you already know how to do long division and don't see the point in this video, or you don't know how to do long division and don't see the point in this video. Because, well, after all, we can just use a calculator, phone, or whatever instead of dividing by hand. An extremely fair point that I don't have a rebuttal to. In many ways, this is a self-serving video. After all, I get to engage in a bit of back in my dayism while making an easier video to plop down in my release schedule. But I'll also branch out and start generalizing about how kids are taught math and education in general. Both topics I'm not qualified to have serious opinions on, but it's my channel and I have the conch. So honestly, you may never need to know how to do long division, but imagine this scenario. You're a freshman in college and you're taking the final for a quote-unquote introductory chemistry class. You naively signed up for this class thinking that it couldn't be too challenging. After all, it's just a GE class and you're just taking it to satisfy some GE prereq. Turns out it's not an easy class. In fact, it's extremely challenging by design to filter out all the aspiring pre-med students and force them to change their majors. You have to do quantum mechanics for the final. And most importantly, you forgot your TI-85. This isn't a hypothetical scenario, it happened to me, and you know what I did? I did long division by hand, and I got a B in that class. And you know what? I'm damn proud I did. I knew chemistry majors that failed that class and ended up changing their majors because of it. So, in my humble opinion, I think knowing long division is like being able to do a weighted pull-up. Most days it's just a nice skill until you're holding onto a rope for dear life after slipping off the side of a mountain with a 35-pound pack on your back and a 40+ foot drop below your feet. Most days it doesn't matter until it matters. Now that I've hopefully gaslit you into caring about long division, aside from the nightmare test scenario, I think long division is useful in another way. Quick ballpark math. Do I know what 57,801 divided by 17 is off the top of my head? Christ no. But I can look at it and tell you that it's maybe 3,500 or so. Why? Well, 60,000 divided by 15 is 4,000, and similarly 60,000 divided by 20 is 3,000, so it's probably around these two numbers, which is how I got my guess. And I think this is a valuable skill. Oftentimes you don't need an exact answer, but just a good enough ballpark estimate. And like many other skills, this can only be developed by practice. Practice which you'll never get if you find yourself reaching for your phone whenever such a question arises. One unexpected consequence of being a card-carrying mathematician is that people will send you snippets of textbooks, worksheets, and videos of how kids are taught arithmetic. And let me tell you, I was exposed to a lot of Common Core material even though I predated it. And my takeaway is that it's very ambitious in that I can tell that it's trying to teach arithmetic in a high-level way to kids, similar to how I do ballpark math. But I think this is putting the cart before the horse. I do ballpark math because I'm familiar with the arithmetic, whereas students learning these things for the first time are using ballpark math to develop familiarity with arithmetic. If you're of a certain age and went to public school here in the US, you may remember the timed addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division tests we had to do. And as much as I hate them in retrospect, because I think this is where countless people developed a dislike for math, I unfortunately also think they're necessary to a degree. After all, you can't read before you know the alphabet, and I think we all learned the alphabet via rote memorization. It's only after you've been reading for a long enough time that being able to read is just second nature and individual letters don't really matter. And I also believe that arithmetic and math in general is the same way. In order to develop an intuitive ability for arithmetic, you just gotta go through the suck of not having an intuitive ability for arithmetic. Unfortunately, that's too high level for most kids, so instead they just get traumatized with timed math tests that leave them with a lifelong hatred of math. But I'm quickly veering into my thoughts on pedagogy. Back to long division. So before you know how to do long division, as I said said earlier, you really do need to be familiar with your basic times table. And the faster you are with multiplication and subtraction, the less time you'll spend doing long division. In the US, we are forced to learn everything up to 12 times 12 for time, so that's probably good enough. Let's divide 937 by 8. First, we set it up. We put the number we want to divide, the dividend, inside the eponymous long division symbol. I looked it up, that's what it's called. Then we put the number we're dividing by, the divisor, to the outside on the left. In long division, we work from left to right, dividing the dividend by the divisor by parts. So first, we want to divide 9 by 8, ignoring any remainder. Pretty simple, just 1. Next, we write that on top of the long division symbol above the hundreds place, since that's where the 9 came from. Next, below 9, we subtract 1 times 8, which is just 8, leaving us with 1. After that, we move to the right and bring that number quote-unquote down next to the 1. And here's when we start repeating the process. What's 13 divided by 8 without any remainder? Again, pretty simple, just 1. So like we did earlier, we write 1 above the number we quote-unquote drag down in the tens place, and we subtract 1 times 8 from 13, leaving us with 5. Finally, we drag down 7, giving us 57. And what's 57 divided by 8 without any remainder? Well, now that you know your multiplications table up to 12 times 12 by heart, you just know 7 times 8 is 56, so if we divide 57 by 8, we'll get 7 with a remainder of 1. And again, just as earlier, we write 7 above the ones place. Now, we could stop here and say that 937 divided by 8 is 117 with 1 remaining, or we could keep chugging. After all, 937 is also 937 point an infinite number of zeros. So if we just slam in a decimal point in our answer and continue the pattern, we will get 117.125. And that's basically it. So let's try dividing 57,801 by 17 to figure out how good my guess was. Since 17 is greater than 5, we instead start off with 57 instead. But after that, it's exactly the same. Find the closest lesser or equal to clean division, write the thingies up top, subtract the difference, bring down the next number or numbers, repeat, yada yada yada. If we work it out, we find that 57,801 divided by 17 is 3,400 with 1 remaining. So my ballpark guess of 3,500 was actually pretty close given the magnitude of the dividend. And that's long division. If you want to get fast at it, you of course just have to practice. Think of 2 numbers and try dividing them. That's about it. Now that that's out of the way, I get to relax and talk about my thoughts on education and math. And I think long division is a good jumping off point. In many ways, long division is the natural culmination of arithmetic. After all, in order to do long division, we're also using multiplication and subtraction. And to do multiplication, we first have to be familiar with addition. And I think that's really how people learn new things, basically by analogy. After all, multiplication is like addition just many times. And if you've watched my Math for Game Dev series, that's how I tried structuring it. I started off with what I considered the basic topic, and again, not basic as in simple, but basic as in foundational, and tried building on top of that to other topics. However, unlike public education, all my videos were opt-in. I didn't have a problem motivating you. You were already willing to learn. And that's the real ultimate challenge of education, making people who may not want to learn. And this isn't exactly groundbreaking stuff I'm saying here, but public education in America is kind of terrible at that. But kids also don't know what's good for them. Back when I was a kid, if I could have pizza and ice cream for dinner, I sure as hell would. Anyways, I think it's a shame because ultimately math is a very fun and engaging topic, but if you spent 12 years of public education being forced to do things without having a reason to, you'll naturally dislike it. Math is in music, math is in art, math is in nature, and math is sure as hell in video games. There are all these interesting avenues of teaching math that kids will care about, but they just go ignored instead. And I understand entirely why it can't be done. If you're trying to teach 36-year-olds arithmetic in an hour, you just can't tailor things that individually. It's just logistically impossible. So instead, a lot of people that would love the creativity involved in math end up hating it. I really do hope I got some converts with my math videos. I know that I'm far from the best teacher, and I'm sorry for that, but I hope I did manage to convince at least some of you to give math a second chance. You don't have to be cracking open elementary analysis books and proving corollaries to this or that theorem. Just, don't be automatically repulsed by it. And what else? Oh, by the time this video is out, submissions for the next demo day will be open. I'm not entering, but since I won't be in a foreign country without my PC, I'll be doing the thingy where I play a handful of demos and upload the videos of my playthroughs for the developers. If you're interested in playing demos from indies exactly like myself and helping them with the development process by leaving feedback, check out the link to the submissions in the description. Entries will be coming in all throughout the weekend until the 3rd of September, so if there's not something you're interested in playing, come back later. I can only force my friends to play my demos so many times before they're no longer my friends, and I'm positive my fellow indies are in a similar boat. So please, help out the little guys and play some demos. They're all free and a lot of them can even be played in just your web browser. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time and I hope you have a good day. If you liked the video, please give it a like, and if you want to follow along with whatever I crank out next, please subscribe. Comments, mwah, love them. There's also a Discord server where you can talk about math, video games, whatever you're working on, and I also have a Twitter that I've been neglecting. I've been busier than I would like after getting back from Japan. So busy, I honestly haven't really been baking anything, but I still have a strategic surplus in the baking series. And speaking of baking, let's get to it. Alright, this is the final episode in the pizza arc. So in many ways, this was the end of all my testing pizzas, and I was really happy with how this one turned out. The last two pizzas though, I burned through the prosciutto and fresh mozzarella. So I'm back to the type of mozzarella we get here in America, and so I chopped the basil this time, so I'm not just eating leaves like a salad. I've come around on salads. I'll talk to you about salads later. Chop the basil this time, so it's a little easier to get bites. And I got the pickled pepper again, and this one was just good. This was a good, solid finale to the pizza arc. It wasn't there was no prosciutto, no fresh mozzi, so I was like, is this really the best pizza I ever had? No, the previous two were the best pizzas I ever had, unfortunately. But anyways, yeah, this was still a great pizza. Delicious. The pickled pepper, I like pickled peppers. I think they're pickled Calabrian peppers. Very, very fancy, but yeah, you can get them anywhere. Like, just go to your local Trader Joe's, pop, they're there. And let's take a look at this crust. As you can see, it is practically non-existent in the center. It is wafer thin, but that's, if you're making it like a Neapolitan style pizza, that's kind of what you're trying to go for. And I forget the hydration for this one. I think this was a new batch, so it was a lower hydration, as I said, 95, whatever I was at last time was too high. And this came out great. Honestly, it was more than, serviceable. It was great. It was a great pizza. It wasn't the best I ever had, unfortunately. I just lacked the ingredients. I didn't want to go back, buy more prosciutto. Well, I did want to buy more prosciutto and fresh mozzarella, but I restrained myself, and instead I used what I had. But so, yeah, again, this was delicious. It was great. You can't really see it at this angle, but there is a bit of leopard skin on the bottom there. And I think by this time I'd really polished I had refined the technique I was using. I learned all about cornmeal. It's very important, otherwise you get a sticky bottom. So you need that cornmeal so that way it releases from the peel easily. And I experimented with really high hydration, brought it back down. So this was this was the point of the pizza arc. It was a training arc. It's like, I was Rocky Balboa running up those steps, doing the boxing montage, except this time was a pizza montage. Which, hey, call Jon Favreau, he'll make a great movie out of this. So anyways, cut up your basils, it's just in the oven for a few minutes, so the basil doesn't get absolutely burnt. It's just in there for 10 minutes. If it's in there for over 10 minutes, it's too long. Your oven has to be hot. It has to be absolutely scorching. But anyways, this is the final entry in the pizza arc. I hope you enjoyed it. I think we'll be returning more to the more baked good, bread-centric boulangerie patisserie type of baking segments, but I hope that you enjoyed it. Just definitely, pizza, homemade pizza, it slaps. It hits hard. But I'm rambling. I'm gonna close off here with the traditional sign off. The yeast in the air is free. You should go out there and bake. It's delicious, it's nutritious, it's good for you, and it makes a great gift that you can share with people you love and appreciate. And I appreciate all of you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.